Hi, I'm Dexter Gelfand. I want to offer you a sweeping view of spirituality and the physical universe, as I currently feel it is. The primary characteristic of the physical universe is distance and a feeling of separation, as opposed to in a pure spiritual realm or existence. There is no such thing as distance. All is here, all is now, and there is simply an us, that is our collective consciousness, absolute connection and co-being, which may sound like a contradiction, but that doesn't preclude our own individuality as beings at the same time. I guess the metaphor that might work might be we're all drops of the same ocean, but in a spiritual sense, in what you might call actuality, in a metaphysical, beyond the physical sense. There is only us, there is only here. And I believe that the underlying anxiety in all of us, you could call it panic, you could call it shock, is the most shocking experience would be that point of entering into a physical world. You could liken it to when a baby is born, the cord is cut, and the baby is forced out of that womb, out of that usness with the mother. I think that is a good metaphor for entry into a physical universe where there are illusions and projections of distance and separation. And I think if you can imagine that feeling of that moment from feeling in its total basis of existence as love and togetherness and usness, and that just moment of separation, of the idea of space and distance, I think it's terrifying. I'm not saying it should be, I'm saying it simply is, because of that fact of there's this nowness, this usness, this all-togetherness, and all of a sudden there's just a feeling of aloneness, a feeling of not being all accepted and loved and together. And I think, as I've recognized for a long time, the basis of all unpleasant feeling, of all emotional pain, is the feeling of not being loved and accepted. And the strongest negative feelings we have are betrayal and humiliation and a sense of being helplessly lost. And all of these are a sense of separation and distance, being all alone, being separated from the hive, if you will, from the collective consciousness. I've stated before that the ultimate, basic, stubbornly held protective attitude is, I'm going to distance people from me. I'm not going to allow the ultimate togetherness of intimacy from another person so that I can't be hurt and they can't withdraw and make me feel alone and unloved. And of course, the irony is that in adopting that or any other stubbornly held protective attitude, by preventing intimacy, we absolutely create the sense and feeling of being all alone and unloved, which is what we fear, which is what we're trying to prevent by actually making it unavoidable. That the ultimate feeling of not being loved and accepted, which I believe is the basis of all painful feeling, is that point of entry into a physical world where all of a sudden there's distance and separation. I believe it's shocking and painful. And I believe you can relate that idea to every strong feeling of fear and anxiety, panic, helplessly alone, and relate it to that sort of underlying root or basis. There are many things said about physical existence and spiritual existence, but I think in terms of the dichotomy that it is, spiritually, we have complete co-being, coexisting, collective consciousness, pure usness and love. And then physically, you have distance, separation, people protecting themselves by taking on protective ways of being to deny too much closeness to others in fear of the vulnerability of being rejected and unloved. You see this dramatized socially in many different ways, or at least I do, social media, the posturings people take and so forth. But if you just shut off all the machinery for a moment and be present where you are, perhaps this is best practiced in something I like to do every day, taking a nature walk and feeling the aliveness and the sentience of all the life around you. I can feel and sense the awareness, the sentience in all forms of life, in every plant, in everything that lives, and connect on that pure spiritual baseness of love and togetherness, and feel their vibe, if you will, and feel that association with them. And you get a taste of that basis of our existence of pure spirituality. And it's something we need to connect with to the best of our ability, more and more and more. And you could sum that up as presence. There are two things in existence, you could say, you could put it this way. The positive being presence, which is recognizing and having all that is present as a co-presence together with all. And then you have projection, which is creating an attitude, a persona, or way of being to distance the underlying you from exposure to the underlying everybody else. Again, that's another example of the dichotomy of spirituality as all loving oneness, cosmic consciousness, and physical universe separation and distance. And I think you can connect with this in terms of feeling the idea of a feeling of terror or fear around separation and distance. So the way to work is towards presence. And I've defined it this way before. Presence is not one's own individual emanations or vibe. True presence is having all that is, all the usness of life in a co-beingness and recognizing that without fearfully projecting distance and space and difference. And that could be said to be the essence of the work that we do in our sessions in therapeutic spiritual counseling by taking up however this is currently manifesting for you and working to allow to emerge the underlying patterns of fear, separation, and distance, and processing these, unraveling these to become more whole and have more presence for self and all. I hope you found this enlightening and interesting. And if you'd like to experience what I'm talking about or know more, please feel invited to be in touch with me, and maybe we can work together.